Welcome. This here is Ophi. She wanted to say hi first. My name is Mark Anthony Dubose Jr. I was born July 4th, 1986. I want to say thank you for tuning in and try to figure out some more about your dog. Something I want to talk about today that I just don't, it's hard for me to find information on this. And no one's wanting to talk about it when it comes down to some dogs. And the concept of using frustration in your dogs to, like, say, get what you want, get what you're looking for. Because in reality, at the end of the day, majority of like this, that's the best way of putting it. This new age dog training stuff is getting your dogs to get in a high level of frustration, as opposed to just in a level of what I want to say is peace and just calmness and just joy and happiness. And frustration, just at the end of the day, it can get you to move. It can get you to do some things. It can get you to react. It can get you to respond. It can get you to really, like, you got to make it happen. But at the end of the day, it's not really, I don't want to use the word fun, but enjoyable to have to live a life like that. You're always basically on edge. You're always on, just the term that I just really know very well based on I keep hearing it a lot from stuff talking about humans over dogs, but walking on eggshells. We're just always like, I'm not sure if I'm doing good enough. I'm not sure if I'm enough. I'm not sure if what's going on is the correct thing. So I kind of need to get more and more reassurance at the end of the day to make sure that I'm on the right path. And this is stuff that I personally see with dogs. And I see them get into frustration, and the dog is just always unsure. And one thing that I'm going to say is that, anyone right now can test your dog to see if what you're doing, training your dog, is leading to frustration or it's actually just enjoyment and fun and just cool, chill. Is grabbing your treats that you're training your dog with, or your toy, I don't care which one, and ask your dog to sit. And if your dog sits, don't give him a treat for a second and see what the dog does next. Just wait it out a moment and see what happens. If the dog is just doing that out of, I understand what's going on and I really appreciate and I really like this game, the dog is going to maintain that sit and just look at you like, okay, treat's going to come, or you're just going to say good job. But what majority of dogs start doing in that sense, if you don't give them a treat, like basically right away, the dog starts to do different stuff. Starts to, worst case scenario, offer different behaviors, such as a down, a wave, a rollover, something, a bark, anything. It's going to start to do extra madness like that, jumping on you, just doing the most, because the dog is just unsure of what's going on, because we're using stuff to get the dog in a frustrated sense to be able to get the dog to be able to react. And then we wonder why our dogs are reactive today, because we're training them all day long to be reactive based on what it is that we're doing with them. So when we're building a bond, a relationship with our dogs to be reactive with us, why would you think that your dog wouldn't be that everywhere with everything that's going on? So for instance, that concept of grab the treat and tell your dog to sit, and your dog gets into reactive mode. So now when you go for a walk and the dog is excited, like seeing another dog, the dog is going to go into what we call as reactive mode. To me, I don't quite see it as being reactivity. It's just excitement that's going to frustration. And some dogs go really far deep that they go into rage. It's no longer frustration where it's acceptable if they don't get the treat or whatever, they can move on. But some dogs go all the way, and that's where you get the dog-to-dog fighting. That's where you get your dog biting and chewing on you. That's where you start to get into those dangerous situations, because the dog is no longer excited. It's no longer frustrated. It's now at the point that it's got to release all of this energy that it's been never able to release. And it's something today that I want to talk a little bit about, and that's the concept of the play that we do, and then the certain, like, the drives that the dogs have. That, I don't know why today I just got stuck in my brain of this concept of dogs chasing. And chase. What is chase? Get your dog to chase and make your dog chase some things. But I really, as much as I'm always been questioning, if your dog is jumping, why is it jumping? If your dog is barking, why is it barking? So then I just have to question everything that way. If your dog wants to chase, why does it want to chase? What is its purpose? What is it looking for? What is its desires with doing this chase? What is it going to accomplish by doing the chase? Because if the dog is just said only chasing, it could turn from excitement and it could turn into frustration. And that frustration could turn into rage, because the dog is never able to fulfill that said desire of why it's chasing in the first place. And there's something that, there's a lot in the dog training school that I missed up on in reality. And I'm starting to understand today, years later, of just doing different things. And the school was primarily focused on obedience stuff, but we were going deep into the said science of what it is with these dogs. And there's a sequence that goes on with these dogs that they don't just chase. There's like multiple things going on here. They have to stalk it out. They got to stare at it. They got to get to that chase. When they get done with that chase, then they got to like investigate it. They're going to investigate what the heck is it that I'm chasing. And then they're going to start to basically dissect it to figure out like, what is this? Because they're just trying to, straight up, your dog gets a squirrel, it wants to smell the heck out of it. It's like, what is this thing? We don't need to be rubbing. he like rubbing the scent. That's something that's fascinating with dogs. They rub the scent of other animals' feces to almost like try to get closer to it. It's a very interesting behavior. But even right there, he wants to get that scent to figure out what is this scent. And then once they dissect it, they're like, oh shucks, this is actually pretty, like it's edible at this moment. So then they just eat it. And most dogs skip the dissect and sniff. And they go straight to eat because they've already like rewarded themselves with that once. So they just know, I'm chasing to eat. I'm chasing a squirrel because I want to eat it. I'm chasing a chicken because I want to eat it. I'm chasing a cute little bunny because I'm trying to eat it. And that's something that the dogs aren't just chasing. And just having a dog chase is something that we got to know why. Why? And that is going to be able to get the dog away from frustration and stay into its level of excitement. And that is where I've just noticed with how the concept that I use is work with my dogs as opposed to the play is they're not in this frantic going crazy mode. And that's what majority of like dog stuff today is telling us to do with our dogs, to get our dogs in this frantic, like psycho, wild rampage mode to get them to do things. And that is getting them into a level of frustration. And if they're never able to actually just express what it is that they want to express to the fullest extent, you're going to create that dog that's just going to continue to keep on getting, in my opinion, just more pushy. And at the same time, a little dangerous. Because a lot of times this is where a lot of the toy play it gets a little dangerous with a lot of people. And same thing with the treats. Treats are still my number one go-to when someone is having issues with their dog biting them, biting the kids, biting the other dogs. It's still the food. The food is my number one. Because what happens is we lead the dogs into that frustration. And then that frustration, we never actually like fulfill that desire, that need in them. And with food, basically at the end of the day, some dogs, not all dogs, but some dogs, you're just never able to like fulfill that need, that extreme desire. So you're kind of like withholding them to be able to complete the sequence. So then that frustration turns into that rage, and that rage, the dog's gonna bite you. It has to. And it happens with the toys and with everything, because this is one thing that a lot of trainers will say, especially when you're working, trying to do like real hardcore obedience stuff, like the competition obedience stuff. We're driving the dogs to basically extreme insanity. And everyone knows, and if you haven't been a part of this, you just go look it up. And Kahi, go look it up and go do some research into that. What these trainers talk about when they're playing with these dogs and this toy stuff, that the dog is going to bite you. And the dog starts to bite you because it knows that it can get the toy faster once it bites you, because you'll drop it if they bite you. So if the dog bites you, do not drop the toy. So the dog doesn't ever get in his brain that that's an option. And that is the concept of what majority of dog training is like leading us up to. Where in most cases, you know, those dogs are like my German Shepherd here. They're like real hardcore dogs. They're not just this sweet little Dalmatian that's just kind of chill, hang out. They're already high driven dogs. And that's why at the end of the day, a lot of my work is with high drive, high energy dogs, because we're doing all those same techniques. And the dog knows that once it bites, it can get what it wants. So then it just continues to keep on doing that. And we're training these dogs over and over with all these concepts and all these techniques to keep the dogs in, I'm gonna say, a high level of frustration all the time. They're never really sure of what's going on. They're never really just in a sense of being able to just chill out. They're always like, am I doing good enough? Is this right? Is this okay? Is everything okay? Is everything all right? And they're bouncing this in their brain all day. So that's why they're trying to like do more and more and more. And that can lead the dog into, at the end of the day, insanity, because the dog is just having a situation of just unsureness and confusion in dogs, in my opinion, just my opinion of what I see and what I do. Confusion is where we're having the most issues with dogs today. It has nothing to do with obedience training, has nothing to do with getting the drives out of the dog. It has everything to do with confusion. And confusion comes from frustration. And that's where I personally just believe that a lot of folks are just having issues, because we're not asking the questions of why and what's. We're just do and go and assuming and thinking that things are fine. And that's something that I want more people to just really think about with working with your dog. Is it clear what you're asking for from your dog? Or is your dog just kind of a little unsure? Is it clear what you're expecting? Is it clear what the boundaries are? Is it clear what's going on? Or is the dog like, I'm not sure? And that's the unsureness can to us as humans look like disobedience basically. Because the dog, oh, the dog's not listening. I told the dog to sit and the dog didn't sit, or the dog went to a down. The dog is confused right now. And that confusion looks like disobedience, but at the end of the day, it's just us as humans that didn't make it clear what it is that we were looking for. We didn't make it clear because the guidelines aren't set up the same all the time. The guidelines are always changing around. And that's just what happens with, straight up I could say, inexperience. There's some people that just know dogs better in a way because they just have more hands-on experience. And some people just naturally have that, so they just have nice dogs. And the people that I just gonna straight up say that have the nicest dogs are the ones that just hang out with the dog and are just with the dog. They're not worried about getting a dog to do anything other than just be calm and just hang out at the house. And those people have like the most premium dogs that I've ever seen before. But when we're trying to do all this extraness, you're gonna mess up a dog or 3 or 4 or 5. Things aren't gonna come out to be all the greatest that you want it to be. And that's unfortunate because that's what like most dog training stuff is out here to do for you, to make it so that they're trying to make this program or this package for you to make you look like you're already a professional with all this experience behind you. And if you're messing up with your dog, you know, it's your fault, it's this and that, or the dog's fault, as opposed to just you're just not experienced enough to do what it is that you're actually looking for. Because something that I'm gonna say is, I know someone might say, I'm foolish for saying this, but treat training a dog is not easy. It is not easy to do. Playing with toys and engaging the dogs in obedience work with those toys, that is not easy to do. That is some very, very complicated stuff. And that complicated stuff comes down to complicated results. And those complicated results give you a dog that is, at the end of the day, majority of dogs that we're doing this stuff to are competition working dogs. They're not a dog that is just a pet hanging out in your house. And again, if you want this high energy, always on the move, always on the go, always pushy, always begging, always bullying, always doing that, then train your dog to be that. And continue to keep on doing the methods of, you know, the sit stays and the down stays with the obedience. Come on, guys, come on, and doing all that, and you're going to continue to keep on having that dog that is just wild and crazy, as opposed to just wondering and put it in your brain of what is it that my dog is actually like wanting, desiring, and doing. Because a lot of times we hear some information, because even hear information from me. In my last video showing my dog here, my shepherd, searching out some chicken. Someone could say, oh, I want to do that. But the main thing is, what is your end goal that you're looking for? I'm always looking at my end goal. Because like I said with that dog, I'm having him search out something that I can be able to use and utilize that if I was in what we call that, a Mad Max scenario, that I'm eating people. My dog's going to find me food. And I'm utilizing dogs to do that. I don't need fences because I'm utilizing my dogs to learn how to be able to corral and keep my animals safe and keep them with me. I'm living a completely different style of life out here on trying to figure out how to be able to live, what do you call that, nomad style. Nomad, out in the wilderness with nothing around, no electricity, no anything. And we just doing what we got to do. I'm just practicing for things like that just because that's something that, I don't know why, I just enjoy. I enjoy learning how to just do everything with nothingness. It's just a very, very fascinating thing for me. But that's not what everybody is looking for. And for me, I'm able to, like I said, complete the chase process with all of my dogs because I've realized and found out what it is that they're chasing for, what it is that they're looking for, and what it is that they're desiring. And then I give them that end result of that desire. And then that's what's able to allow them to be able to just calm down and get out of that frustration and just see everything that we do as excitement. And that's something that a lot of us are trying to do what we think is what's best for the dogs. We see the dogs getting all wild, jumping all crazy and barking and being savage. And we think like that's like good for the dog. But anytime, I'm just gonna straight say this, anytime that's why I don't like showing my dogs too much, because sometimes it can be confusing. But anytime that I show my dogs doing stuff, they are not like crazy, wild. They are like focused. They are dialed in. They are on mission. They are like processing everything that's going on and not in this like frantic way of life. This is where I'm gonna say never with my dogs. My dogs, I never want them to be frantic. I never want them to be unsure. I never want them to just never be able to follow through with what it is that they want to be able to follow through with. I want to be able to set it up so that I could be able to give them what it is that they're actually desiring. And that's what's able to get them to calm down and get out of frustration and stay in that excitement. That's why like for instance, this German Shepherd, And even this Dalmatian already. This is why now when I see dogs, they are now not barking at me, because with this Dalmatian, when I first got her, she was getting the dogs to bark at me again because she's like, ooh, 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 what's going on? But since day after day, week after week, and now month after month, we're doing what we're doing. Same with that Shepherd. He doesn't have that energy. He's got energy of like, it's fun, it's cool, everything is great. So the other dog that he sees that is frustrated, he's bringing that frustration out of that dog and putting that dog into a level of excitement, which is manageable. We can manage. And I'm gonna say word manage, but it's not coming down to management that I'm talking about is gonna be completely different than management than what dog training community is talking about. Management dog training community is you see dog sees trigger, you give dog treat, you give dog toy, you do something to the dog. You make the dog have to do something. And that's not my style of management. My style of management is I could just easily see my dog look at another dog, get all excited, and then just get to the situation that hold on, I gotta grab this real quick. Get into the situation that I can just pull on the leash or get them back close to me, or just get them into a situation where they're right next to me. We're still going on, Betty. And I could just have to walk right by. The way I see it is I just continue to keep on dancing along. I'm not like worried or nervous of anything that's gonna happen. I'm just walking along. And I don't have to like give the dog a treat, get the dog to go off the trail, get him into a sit, get him to do, that's management. My kind of management is just have the dog and just let's keep on going. And if the dog does like give a little bit of a reaction, I'm just gonna keep on walking and not worry about anything. And that's what I want my dogs to be able to get to. Stay in that level of excitement, because in that level of excitement, I don't need to like force a treat in their face. I don't need to force a toy in their face. I don't need to force them to get into a sit or a down. I don't need to like do anything, but just continue to stay on mission, because that's very, very easily, the word that is just the best with that is controllable. An excited dog is easy to control. You could just say, hey, all done. The dog's just like, oh, okay, well, we're finished now. And they can just stop, they can snap out of it really easily. But when they're in that high level of frustration, you got basically no communication going on with that dog. Your communication level is you can't, there's no reason to even try. And this is where, for me, that I would always like, well, if the dog's not listening to the treat, then we go towards the pressure. And then we slap the prong collar on, we slap the e-collar on, and that's able to, the language that I could just see it as is what everyone says it as is we can snap the dog out of it. We can like put pressure to like the dog is focused and is dialed in, and we can snap him out of it. And the main thing is we should never even be allowing the dogs to get to that level of frustration. We should be doing everything we can all day long to get the dogs into and just stay in excitement. And because it's very easy to just say, hey, let's done. Hey, we're finished. Because it's not over the, what is that called? The threshold, the tipping point. We're still in the, I could just talk to you and we got things going on. And that's not what like majority of dog training is doing. We're getting dogs past their threshold to try to get them under their threshold. That just doesn't, you're just working, that one I can say is you're like working sideways you're not even working backwards, you're going all over the place. And that's why you're just not seeing any sort of success, because you're trying to convince the dog to get like frustrated for you by you just throwing the treat in his face, as opposed to being frustrated over the other dog and getting excited over that. And that's very, very confusing. That's where that confusion again is going to lead your dog into an extreme amount of frustration, because it's not clear what the heck is going on here. And that's something that a lot of us should really be thinking a lot with what our dogs are doing. If my dog is in this high level of frustration, how do I get him out of frustration? And why is my dog even frustrated? What do I need to do to, like, say, even dial some things back so that my dog can get out of this, so that it can just be happy? Because frustration is not happy. It is damaging. It is not caring for. It is at the end of the day, love is trying to see the best out of someone, and hate is trying to basically destroy them and see the worst in them. So in reality, a lot of what we're doing is hating our dogs. And then we're thinking that we're gonna hate them, and then we're gonna get them to love us. And that, yes, you can. You can get your dog to listen to you somewhat, but that's out of a very, very toxic relationship. And that's why the dogs are always pushy. That's why the dogs are, at the end of the day, trying to manipulate you. That's why the dogs are doing all this madness, because the relationship is built out of hate and not out of love. And you can't mix the two here. You can't mix the two. You can't hate something one day and then love it the next day. You got to either love it, and that's it. You can't mix them. And that's something that I want more people to just really think about. Are you making your dog, at the end of the day, hate you because it's not able to do what it's able to do? You're not paying closer attention to the whole range of what's going on. And one thing that I really want a lot of people to think about is this frustration. If the dog is chasing, why is it chasing? If the dog is like obsessed over food, why is it so obsessed over food? And then once you start to figure that out, you're going to start to be able to work backwards from like completing that cycle, completing that situation. It's like my Dalmatian here. She's always been so focused on, oh my goodness, I got to get all the food out here and all the food. And she's already getting so much better. Why? Because day after day, I give her what in her brain is the greatest freaking food on the planet. And she looks at me like, oh, okay, dude, you give me what I need. I'm getting this every single day. I'm getting even an overabundance of it. And you're hooking me up. And she's like, well, then I don't really have so much of a desire to like go and find out every little scrap piece everywhere. So I'm just realizing that she's got this obsessive drive to, I got to go find food. And I'm like, hey, girl, dude, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you. And then she starts to slow down. And then at the same time, one of my biggest things that I've really been able to do with being able to get her to calm down with this food is when we eat our food, we're no longer wild. We're no longer on a rampage. We're no longer just going just savage over getting food. Now the food bowl goes down. Now we're just hanging out. We're hanging out. And some days we're hanging out for hours. We're hours, man. We're hours just hanging out. I've upgraded to not just standing there and looking at the food, but I just sit on the couch and I just wait. I wait until she relaxes. She can go on the couch and hang out and she can go sit down, but she has to completely relax. Once she's completely relaxed, now I'm like, okay, well, let's go get some food now. And she's like, oh, okay, let's go eat now. And that has been able to get me to fulfill that desire in her of just being on an absolute rampage all the time of, I need food, I need food, I need food, I need food. So now she knows that to get the food, I have to be calm. So now when we're on walks and she sees food, it's no longer like, oh my God, I gotta go get it, I'm gonna go get it, because that's not how we're training it. We're training it to all be calm. We're training it to all be relaxed. That's even like how I have my dog here when he does any sniffing stuff for me. We're not in a rampage. We're processing, we're slowing down. We're getting calm, we're getting relaxed. And if he wants to be all wild about it, I'm just like, dude, we're not doing that way. We're not doing it like that. We're gonna have to think this through here. It's not just an absolute free-for-all where you could just go crazy and go savage. Because otherwise, where would he be doing that? Out here as well. Every chance that he had to smell, he'll just be on an absolute rampage. I mean, that's how he used to be when I first got him. Just, man, I wish I had videos of this dog when I first got him. He used to just be crazy. Just, his sniff would be like obsessive. It just, he was bouncing back and forth and jumping back and forth and going absolutely wild, just wild, wild, wild. And in the same way, when he first saw the chickens at the house, he just went, wow, I gotta chase these things and chase. And then I try to figure out, like, what are you looking for? He just wanted to smell it. So once I got him to be able to realize that he could be able to smell them, that's why he has zero desire to chase a chicken anymore, because he gets to smell them. Because when he notices, when he's calm and he moves slow around them and he's just like really patient with them, the chicken will just lay there and he can smell it, and then he just moves on. That's all he wanted to do. He didn't really care for the whole dissect it and investigate it and go more than that. He just wanted to smell the dang thing. So for him to smell it, it's let me go chase it to kill it, to keep it in, not really in, more likely in his brain, thinking of killing it at first, but getting it contained so that I could just smell it, just want to get it. I just want to know what this is. I don't know what it is. So I let him just go through that. And then he's just like, oh, okay, well, that's what that is. So every new little thing, he just wants to smell it. And he knows, especially with like wildlife, that if I'm chasing it, I can't smell it. I got to be calm around it. And sometimes the deer let him get really close. I mean, really close. And he smells, you can see him smelling up. He's smelling in the air. He's trying to smell the thing. He smells me. He's like, ooh, what is that? And then if the deer runs, he's just like, okay, well, maybe next time I'll try to like be more like discreet, basically. And that's like the concept of what he was just doing back there. They like rubbing themselves in that animal's feces to make it seem like it is that other animal, so they can get closer to it. This is what my border collie does to the cows. When we're really working cows and they love to like run away and hide in the woods, he goes, finds poop. He's so smart. He just does this all on his own because the cows they're being pushy. He knows when they're being pushy or the cows are just being agreeable. So he'll go find some poop and roll in it. He roll in it. He put his back, he roll all in it. I'm like, dang, dude, you could make it a little easier. I don't have to give you a whole bath right now. And then he'll go into the woods and find those cows because he knows when he smells like them, he can get closer to them. And he could be able to allow himself to be able to get just close enough to do what it is that he needs to do. And that's something that, I don't know, it's just the neatest thing of what these dogs are all about. But the main thing is we have to figure out why they're doing what they're doing. If your dog is obsessed over food, why? Why? And once we are able to slow them down with all of the stages of the food, they're not going to be so obsessed about it anymore. Because a dog that is obsessed over food, which we like to do with these extremely high value treats, such as like giving them cheeses and hot dogs and steak and all this stuff, and the dogs get so obsessed, you can start to create a dog to, this is again, my number one call, is start to resource guard that food. And that's why it starts to bite for that food, because it wants that food and you're not giving that dog that food that fast enough. So when you're using these you're creating the dog to get excited over the treats, over the food, as opposed to calming them down to be able to get the treats and get the food. And that's why at the end of the day, the people that I could watch, and I don't even know who to even recommend, but there's lots of people that train dogs, and it's amazing to see, because they're looking for the calmness to give the dog the treats, not looking for the excitement. And when you're looking for the calmness to give the dog the treat, the dog is going to calm down. The dog is going to see treat and be like, oh, it's okay. That's how some people are able to get, like said, reactivity of a dog-to-dog barking and stuff with treats, because they are treating the dog when it's calm. And that dog gives them that calm presence, and it's like, okay, now that you're calm, now you can have this treat. And some dogs, that works, but not all dogs. But still, that's something that's how you want to be working with your dog pretty much all the time, in a calm way, not in a frustrated, excited, frantic, going wild way. That is just going absolutely backwards with having a nice, calm dog. And that's what just doesn't quite make sense to me, on how even going to I hate to put company names out there, but even going to something like the Petco and trying to do your puppy training and all that, you're teaching your dogs to be like obsessively excited. And then you're shoving like 12 to 15 dogs. Oh, I almost fell. You're shoving like 12 to 15 dogs in one little 8x8 area. And so you're forcing all the dogs to have to be with each other. So you're forcing conflict day one having that dog. And it's like, oh, this is fun. This is what we're supposed to do with our dogs. But at the end of the day, majority of people I know that have gone to those classes, my goodness, your dogs are an extreme hot mess, like, like a big hot mess. Because for one, you're forcing dogs that don't want to be interacting with a lot of dogs to force them to have to do that. And then they have to fight against that at some point someday, because they're just like, I'm sick and tired of meeting all these people. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's something that each dog is just different. But we're driving the dogs to frustration without understanding what is it that the dog is actually doing and desiring. And that's something that we should really just take steps back. Instead of thinking like, what do I need to do because my dog is acting a fool right now, so I need to do something now. So I need to call this trainer, I need to do this, I need to get on YouTube, I need to find this, and just stop. Stop. And just look at your dog and just say, hey, what is it that I don't like that my dog is doing? And really think about a good concept of how to get the dog out of that in a way that is going to get your dog to be calm, as opposed to getting your dog to be super excited. Because you do not want that excitability for your pet dog inside of your home. You want a dog that is nice and calm and chill. So you have to do everything nice and calm and chill. And the only way to do that is to really just figure out why everything is going on. Why the heck does my dog want to just take off at the deer? Why? Because I'm going to tell you this, there's not many dogs on this planet that have the confidence and the willingness and the care to really just go and kill animals. They don't do this anymore. A wolf, yeah, because they're trying to eat, man. They're trying to eat. But a domesticated dog, most of what all these dogs are doing, even if they do accidentally kill a squirrel, it's going to be an accident. It's not that they're trying to savagely go and get it. And this, again, is how I get all of my dogs to not chase and kill chickens. Baby chicks, that's one thing. That's a whole new level of complexity because it's new. The baby chicks run fast. They sound different. So I'm working on that again because now they're like, oh, what is that? Because the grown chicks are all my dogs used to seeing grown chicks outside of Oreo. He understands the whole cycles. But like the Dalmatian, she don't know baby chick. So I got her to be cool around grown chick because the thing is she just wants to smell it. Now she just walks around and just smells them. So why was she chasing chickens to kill them? She realized, oh, okay, I just want to smell it. Once she got that smell out, now she's just like, oh, okay, chickens they're all right. And for one, she's pretty cool with me because that's the kind of food that she gets to eat. She eats a whole lot of eggs and eats a whole lot of chicken. She's up to a dozen eggs a day at this point right now. She just looks at me like, dude, I don't need to steal none of this stuff or try to take it. You're just going to give it to me. I'm like, I am. I'm going to give you everything that you want. And it's just something that we continue to keep on working on day after day after day. That they just don't have this desire to want to just kill outside of vermin. That's one thing that is in dogs. They'll kill mice. They'll kill moles and the little things that tunnel under the ground and do all that stuff. But as far as like a deer or a squirrel even, or any of these things, the dogs are trying to investigate it. So once you realize that the dog is trying to investigate it, you want to get the game set up so that the dog is capable of investigating it. So it doesn't feel like it needs to continue to keep going more, that you satisfy that dog's need. So something that, I mean, man, a really, really very amazingly good idea that Mr. Robert Hines gave me talking about what someone is doing with their dog is putting a scent of, I forget what animal it is, but putting the scent of that animal on an RC car and then having that car go towards somewhere where there's like more of that scent of that animal to be able to find. So that dog is chasing that car, thinking that it's the animal basically running. We can trick these dogs somewhat to chase that car, to think that it's chasing that animal. And once it chases that animal, it gets to the point that it gets to the final destination of where that animal actually is. And that is going to completely satisfy that dog because now you've completed the whole cycle. Just having them chase, the dog is going to do that for a while, but you need to complete the cycle. If the dog is chasing, it's going to look good for a while, and then you're going to be like, well, it's not working as much anymore because we have to figure out why. Why? With everything in life, we should be looking at the why and not just doing and just going. We got to think more into all of this, as opposed to that's where you're going to have the really nice stuff that you're looking for, is asking that simple question of why is this going on? Why is that happening? Why is it like this? Why is it like that? And just really spending some time and focusing more of your energy on really just understanding that why and not just do stuff. Because when you just do stuff, you could be doing stuff that, again, this is how most dog training stuff for me and my experience is. Just doing stuff, it works for a little while and then it stops. And I don't want anyone to stumble and fumble into that situation. I want you to do something that's going to be able to give you long-lasting results. And long-lasting results that you're not going to be struggling with. It's not going to be too hard for you to do. It's not going to be too much for you to keep up with. It's going to be something that's going to be very, very simple for you. But we can't really get to that point if we're just trying the next best thing without asking ourselves, why is my dog doing this? Why is it wanting to run? Why is it wanting to this? Why is it wanting to go over there? Why is it wanting to dig holes? A lot of dogs like to dig holes because, again, looking for the small vermin, looking for mice, looking for moles, looking for these little things in the ground. So they're sitting here digging and digging and digging. And then you're going to punish the dog for digging a hole and not asking, what the heck is this dog actually doing? Just like there's a huge thing that I see a lot of people have they claim to be issues with huskies. They like to dig. Why the heck is the husky digging? I mean, I want people to just like look it up. Why is this dog wanting to dig? And if you're going to sit here and try to punish that dog for doing that, you're working backwards with these dogs. This is why a lot of people with certain breeds and certain dogs are like, oh, they're hard dogs or they're complicated. No, they're hard dogs because they're doing what the dog wants to do. And we as humans don't want that. And so we're trying to discipline the dog for being a dog and having a dog to do what the dog needs to do. And then that's where we're running into conflict with the dogs. That's like me. I would run into conflict right away with this Dalmatian if I just didn't let her do what she wants to do, which is be a chariot puller. She's pulling me along. She's pulling herself, and then we're on mission doing what we're doing. If I don't give her this, she's going to be really, really upset with me. And that's where we're running into conflict. The dog is digging for a reason. It's not most, like I'm going to say breed specifics. Some of these dogs are digging because they have a desire in them that they have to fulfill to do something. And if you don't fulfill that desire, you're running. You're just going to keep on stumbling and fumbling because you're just fighting, man. You're gonna be fighting. You're gonna be fighting. And that's something with some dogs and some little dachshunds I've been working with. They love to dig for some worms, to dig for some stuff. And I'm like, we got to set up a sand pit or something so that these dogs can dig, because this is something that is just in them. That if you just let them do it once a week, once a month even, you're gonna start to see a dog get much, much better. But when we're sitting here working against everything, we're just not or just doing a part of the job, part of their sequence that they need to be able to complete themselves, we're going to be struggling. We're going to get short-term help, but then we're going to go right back into like, whoa, what's next? And then the first thing that, I don't know why, what we as humans do is, the first thing we do is go to some sort of pressure, some sort of just I need that trainer to come in and do the craziness to my dog because my dog isn't listening anymore. And when the dog is trying to bite you over some treats, you get a little scared and you start to go a little dangerous. But the main thing is just think about that wise. Just sit on that for a little while. You see your dog that is just like obsessed over, like it gets excited over another dog. Why is my dog getting excited over this other dog? What is it that my dog wants to do? Does my dog want to meet the dog? Does my dog want to stay away from the dog? Those are two questions that you need to ask right away. You need to figure that part out, because the best way to figure that out is put dog on a leash and take dog to a place and see what the dog does. If the dog is pulling forward, more likely it's trying to get that dog to get the heck out of there. If the dog is behind you and barking and going crazy, it's probably saying, I kind of want to play with this dog. And that's not a all be all. This is where things can get complicated. That's why I don't really like talking techniques too much, because everyone's got a different situation on this planet, and we're all not the same. And that's something that we just need to start figuring more of that out. Because if your dog is like excited to meet other dogs, you can't use the same stuff as if the dog was scared and meeting other dogs, because that's where you're going to run into a very sticky situation. Because the same with both of those techniques, you're going to mess things up, and you're going to mess it up in a very destructive way at the end of the day. And that's what the unfortunate thing is a lot of people are running into. We're not paying attention to our dog. We're seeing a dog on a screen and thinking that, oh, my dog can do that. No, your dog can do what your dog can do. Your dog has a desire that your dog has. And mine have the desires that mine have. And I just study them and I watch them. And I pay very, very close attention to every little thing that they're doing to figure out what is going to be the best thing to be able to satisfy that dog. And I'm focusing on that every single day in reality, just for me, because I'm kind of just a little hardcore about animals. Not only just dogs, but I do this with all of my animals. I figure out what kind of housing they like, what kind of food they like, what kind of everything that they like. And I try my best to be able to give them all of that so that it gives them a good life to be able to live. And that's something that is, in my opinion, just my opinion, is what's required from us if we're trying to take in animals. I mean, even fish. You don't just put the fish in the bowl and think, I don't need to clean it, I don't need to this. No, you're going to kill that fish. You need to do everything you can to make sure that you can give that fish a good life. You need to do everything you can to make sure that you give that dog a good life, because there's no reason to have the dog if you're just going to beat it into submission and make it sit inside of a room and do absolutely nothing. There's no reason to have the dog. Just why did you even get the dog in the first place? And that's something that I think more people need to really just put two and two together. Having a dog isn't just like a purse or a TV. You got to do stuff with it. It's not something that's just there. You got to do stuff with it. And once you decide to start doing stuff with it, you're going to really, really just see an upgraded experience with your life in general. Not only just with the dog, but in all of your life. That's why I'm just a big believer on, you got a nice dog, you're a cool person to be around, because it says something about who you are and what you're doing. You're not just a do the bare minimum type person. You do a little extra, you do more. And it's an incredible thing to be able to experience on this planet, is what these dogs are capable of giving to us. And it's something that I want more people to just really, really think more about why with all this stuff with your dog, and stop just going into how the dogs are today, reactive. And that's what most of us are doing with dogs. We're just going into reaction mode. These dogs are simple, people, but they're simple when you just take a step, take a seat, and just pay attention to them, as opposed to thinking that something on the outside is going to be able to fulfill its needs. It's already there for you. It's already within your hands and within your boundaries and within your control to be able to give to your dog. And when you really just figure that out and see that, you're going to see, like, what I'm going to say is the real success day after day after day of being able to have that dog that you're actually looking for. Thank you. Yeah, Ophi. Yeah, girl. This dog is starting to get pretty cute. So how she comes back to me like that is how I always want her to. She comes back to me every time like that, then she can be off leash. And I test that with her smelling and going crazy and stuff. So I want to say, hey, Ophi, and I want her to always look like that. Okay, let's go.